And this was told by a musician, Doyle Dykes. Some of y'all that have been around us know Doyle. But Doyle told the story. He was playing at the Grand Ole Opry. And I'm not much of a musician, but that's evidently a pretty big deal. And he plays a 12-string guitar, and it's just awful. It's the worst he's ever played, and he can hear it. And he says he walks off stage, and I guess it was Chet Atkins, or who greeted him off stage, Ken? But anyway, said he had tears in his eyes. And he says, that's the best I've ever heard. And he's like, I mean, that's just a lie. I mean, this is what he's sharing. That's just kind of like a lie. And then he said, as his daughter comes up, says, oh, Dad, you're just the best. Yeah, that was just amazing. And he's like, honey, it's your dad. Just don't sugarcoat nothing. Go get your brother. Go get your mother. I'm going to the car. Y'all come on. He was very upset. And he said, they get to the car, go to the hotel. And that's a hard life, by the way. He wasn't on private jets. He was in a van and, with his family. But anyway, he said, they're all telling him on the way home. They're just comforting him like you can as a human, just comforting him, saying, no, it sounded really great. And he said he knew they were not telling the truth because he's kind of, he's the expert, so to speak. And he says he gets up the next morning, gets his guitar out of his case, and he's looking at it, and it's strung backwards. Now, I have no clue what that means as a non-musician, but it's not good, evidently. And he says at that moment, he said, God needed to set me free from people, and God needed to set me free from performance. And he's at that moment when he looked at his guitar and it was strung backwards, he said the Lord spoke to him and said, Doyle, I'm not dependent on your talent level as to what people hear. I'm not dependent on your talent level as to what people hear. That just has to sink in sometimes. But that's what I'm talking about, the sovereignty of God. And he wants to use each of you to speak into the lives of people and to tell the goodness of his Son and point them towards Christ. And it's not dependent on our talent level. It's not dependent on that we can quote every scripture. Satan can convince us, don't do it because you may not know the answer. And so just think about that. God can control what a whole audience hears. He can control what people hear when you're speaking about Christ. Because we've got to get outside the four walls of the church. You go there to get equipped, not learn about God, but get to know God. I would submit that Ben got to know God in that cotton field when he said it's enough. But God knew Ben way before then, before he was even in his mother's womb. And that's how he knows each of you. So when you leave these four walls, make a decision. Am I going to just be the same? Am I going to go to church and be religious? Or am I going to be out in the marketplace telling about the goodness of the Lord?